And viewers, after a big admission by Kharge, Prime Minister Modi has of course hit out at the Congress party. But before that, let's tell you about news from Canada, where in a major significant escalation of diplomatic tensions, the Canadian government has officially designated India as a state adversary in its latest national cyber threat assessment. That's a big breaking news that we're bringing from Canada. Now, this report released by the Canadian Centre for Cyber Security categorizes India alongside China, Russia, Iran and North Korea as a nation posing cyber threats to Canada. Now, this is of course coming after escalation in ties and souring of diplomatic relations between India and Canada. Now, another move coming up from the Trudeau government, just as Trudeau is to face the elections next year. Remember, viewers, deteriorating bilateral relations may further increase Indian state-sponsored cyber threats against Canada is what the Canadian government under Trudeau is alleging. It's also saying that advancements in technology have heightened cyber vulnerabilities for Canadian. Now, these are some of the allegations. We don't know how much true these are or whether they hold any merit at all. The report, in fact, also claims that India is developing cyber programs that threaten Canada and engages in cyber espionage against the Canadian government. Now, this is of course coming after relations between Canada and India have been increasingly tense due to accusations over the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian citizen, and a Khalistani terrorist. India of course recalled its diplomats from Canada in response to the allegations. Now, the Trudeau government continues to face criticism for its handling of relations with Khalistani terrorists. In fact, this report is highlighting Chinese hacking that also poses the most significant threat to Canada. It's organized into sections, the report, and addresses cyber crime. Now, of course, a massive escalation and souring ties between India and Canada. Now, a cornered Canada has escalated this diplomatic face-off, listing India as a cyber threat. This report has also added China, Russia, Iran and North Korea as a state adversary. Deteriorating bilateral relations, viewers, another allegation put by the Trudeau government on the Indian authorities after India has already recalled its diplomat from Canada. The Canadian government has officially designated India as a state adversary in its latest national cyber threat assessment. And this report is released by the Canadian Centre for Cyber Security, and it is categorizing India, China, Russia, Iran as posing significant cyber threats to the Trudeau-led country. The assessment highlights the growing vulnerability of Canada to state-sponsored hacking and cyber espionage, driven in part by the ongoing diplomatic fallout following the assassination of Nijjar, a Khalistani terrorist and Canadian citizen in British Columbia. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau has previously, viewers, accused the Indian government of being involved in Nijjar's government. This claim, of course, has not been substantiated by public evidence, and we did bring you that statement of Justin Trudeau to his home country, where he is clarifying that there are no hard facts to back his claim. This report is warning that escalating tensions between Canada and India are likely to fuel cyber threat activities from Indian state-sponsored actors. And in fact, let me quote what the report goes on to say. It says that countries that aspire to become new centers of power within the global system, naming India, are building cyber programs that present varying levels of threat to Canada. The report, of course, once again has no substances to prove its claim and nothing substantiated mentioned, that is putting these nations on this category of adversaries. 5 countries, including Russia, India, North Korea, and India. 4 countries have been listed by Canada as nations posing cyber threats to Canada. Viewers, let's remind you, this is also coming after several hoax bomb threats that have been issued to airlines in India, and there have been reports how the VPNs were linked to sources in Canada. Khalistani terrorists and extremists have been rerouted to be issuing these threats. Now, Canada, on its part, is alleging, making claims that India, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are nations posing cyber threats to Canada. In fact, I'm now joined in by Purnima Nath, live on the bulletin. She's an international affairs expert. A very good morning to you, Purnima. Now, big charges coming in by Trudeau government listing India as a country posing cyber threats to Canada. Can it really substantiate this massive charge that has been leveled?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. I just want to let you know I'm actually at Trump rally right now. This is happening in my city, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is the last one of his rally happening in Wisconsin before the election end day on the November 5th. Coming back to this particular question of Canada accusing India, I want to understand where the evidence is. Last time I heard that Canada actually accused India of a assassination of a Indian marked terrorist in Canada's territory, which were basically he was supported and sheltered in Canada's land. However, with the same line of communication was happening in American politicians as well. My own senator, Tammy Baldwin, who's actually from Democrat Party, has pushed a agenda, a resolution, which actually didn't see any light of the day in the Senate floor. But the point is that the agenda and the communication is happening in terms of building a narrative, and they have been doing it for quite some time at this point of time. Now, coming in this particular situation, I have not seen Canada provide any evidence in the last acquisition. Now, this is a new one that is coming through. I particularly think that this is actually quite dangerous and quite unnecessary. However, I think it's because of what's India actually doing in international forum, whether it's working with Russia, working with China. PM Modi recently visited Ukraine as well. So somehow along the line, PM Modi is trying to balance their act, but also haven't condemned Russia the way America or Canada or the Western country wanted India to do. Because he's not towing the line of Western narrative. Somehow he's being, India is being, arm twisted, and they're trying to play some games in order to make sure that India actually comes to their line. So to me, this is there's more going on behind the scenes that we don't know. This particular report, along with what United States is trying to push in terms of human rights issues, a country of particular concern. CPC, that India has been targeted by American institutions, including USCIRF. The sanctions are going to be a massive nuisance for India. And obviously BRICS, part of BRICS, they're doing a lot of important work in the area. I don't think this is going to be taken lightly by the West. So they're being threatened. That's what I feel. That I think West is being threatened by India's diplomacy at this point of time. So this is quite dangerous. Let's see what happens. But I want to see the evidence, not just telling dark webs is used by Indian organizations. And I've also seen a report coming through, United States is also acting against Indian companies for supplying Russian arms, I suppose. And I think I just saw that report coming through. So I think there's a lot going on in terms of geopolitical issues. Regime change is an issue that I see in India that might happen. So India has to actually consider this as a massive, massive threat for Indian sovereignty.
All right, Purnama, you've clearly said how this is probably an agenda of the Canadian government and the West as a whole to counter Russian power, in fact. But do you think these charges coming in from Trudeau government just ahead of the elections next year in Canada, are they going to be of any benefit to Trudeau government? Will they help Trudeau save his face as he's facing a lower rating back home in Canada as well? Other than just, souring and deteriorating the ties with India further?
If you remember, I saw a tweet coming through from the Canadian Hindus that the right-wing candidate from Canadian Prime Minister election is actually he's cancelling those Diwali events. He's actually not attending those Diwali events organized by Hindus in Canada. And some of those organizations are speaking up or also saying that what the right wing is doing is incorrect and actually insulting to the Hindu community in Canada. So I don't think it's something to do with his election or rating. I think there's more going on that is being communicated. I would like to see, as an American, as a Indian origin American, I would also like to see some evidence, some information that, let's say, Indian government is being involved. Just a simple accusation is quite dangerous at this point of time.